Hope so, because mom's going to listen to this episode. She listens to the podcast every week.
Oh, she's gonna be upset that I told this story.
We're going to be doing some editing. Hello, my LGBTQTs, and welcome back to another episode of A Jaded Gay. I'm Rob Loveless, and today I'm a non-jaded gay because I'm actually back home at my parents' house for a little break. It's nice to disconnect from Pittsburgh, take a little break from everything going on out there, and just be home, back in my hometown, kind of away from any stress and responsibilities. I've been walking around the neighborhood a lot with my dog, just spending some time with my family. It's been mostly relaxing for the most part, so it's nice just to get away and have a little break. Anyway, today I am very excited because I am actually having a special guest on my podcast today, my sister Michelle, and we'll be just talking a little bit about our experiences growing up within the same family, but having different experiences based off of that because one of us is gay and one of us isn't. You can guess who's who. But before we get into that, you know the drill. Let's do our tarot. So today's card is the Hangman in reverse, which funny enough, when you look at it in reverse, it actually looks like it's standing upright. The Hangman is a Major Arcana card. It's number 12 in the Major Arcana. As you know, numerology, you add up double digits, so 1 + 2 = 3. And the number 3 is typically tied to creativity, collaboration, and community. And in astrology, the Hangman is tied to Neptune, which is representative of dreams and illusions. And typically when we draw this card in reverse, it means that we can be feeling impatient and there might be, excess inertia that we want to take action, but the situation we're in is not calling for us to take action yet. So when we draw this card, it's telling us that we shouldn't be fighting our current circumstances or forcing forward movement. So delays are obviously annoying and, a lot of us, myself included, are impatient. We just want to achieve what we're working towards. We don't want to deal with the hiccups in the way, but we just need to trust that we're where we're meant to be, that the timing is meant to play out. So if we're putting in the work but not achieving what we want to achieve, maybe that's an indication that we're still in the moment where we need to learn something so we can get to that place. Or we're experiencing the delay because if we get to that place too soon, we won't really be grateful for what we've worked for and what we've gone through to achieve that. And as always, we need to sometimes quiet those emotions because when we react emotionally, usually it's not the best outcome, and we need to trust our intuition and divine timing. So when we draw this card, it's really encouraging us to take a moment to pause, reflect, see where we're at, and maybe see if there's a different perspective on how we should be looking at the situation or even approaching that situation. Because remember, this card's indicating that there's inertia there. We have a lot of energy, we want to take action, but we're not supposed to be taking action yet. So we need to pause, really take a look at our situation, confront things that might be uncomfortable, and really determine what's the appropriate course of action to go forward and trust the timing of it all. In situations where in relationships, any dynamics like that, everything's always evolving, it's always changing. So just because we might be feeling stuck in our current situation doesn't mean it's actually the same situation day in and day out. Yes, we might be working a job that we don't like, or we might be in a relationship that we feel stuck in, but that dynamic is evolving and it is leading us to being one day closer to the right direction where we're supposed to be going. So even though we might be feeling stuck in place and like we're not moving forward, we actually are. So we just need to trust that process, take the time to pause and really reflect on our surroundings and not react emotionally. So yeah, that's our card for today. And speaking of reacting emotionally, I'm very excited to introduce our new guest. She's got a cute face and a nursing degree and too pretty to be working full time. I'd like to welcome to the show my sister, Michelle.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you identify as, pronouns, all that fun shit.
My name's Michelle. I identify as
a bitch.
She, a bitch, preferably she bitch. And I live in Philadelphia.
Oh,
I
exciting.
work at a hospital in Center City on an orthopedic unit. I'm 4.5 years younger than Rob. And yeah, we've just kind of been booling ever since 97.
And you are a heterosexual, is that correct?
I am a heterosexual.
Well, that's okay. God will forgive you.
Yeah, well.
Nobody's perfect. So today I really just wanted to have this episode. It's going to be a lot less research based than usual, just really going to be a conversation with my sister. Obviously, we're from the same family, grew up in the same neighborhood, have pretty similar life experiences growing up, but obviously through a different lens of being gay versus being straight. So I guess just to kick it off, Michelle, do you want to talk about, your experiences growing up and kind of maybe realizing when you got a little bit more to like the dating stages and how that dynamic played in, like if there's any self-consciousness or how mom and dad approached dating and relationships with you?
Honestly, I think that anyone would say this. I've been boy crazy. And I was always, even super young, like in like preschool and kindergarten, I was always super open with my parents and pretty much everyone on who I had a crush on. Like I was never embarrassed, never anything like that. So probably middle school was when I started actually like calling a boy my boyfriend. And I would literally just be like, oh, mom, my boyfriend, Connor, let's name drop. We all have an ex. Like,
Sorry,
I'd be like,
Connor.
oh, mom, like, Connor's gonna come over. And she'd just be like, okay. And then, like, I don't know. All my boyfriends always met my parents. We always hung out at my house. It was just never anything out of the ordinary or never anything that I thought anything about.
I do think it's a little different too, because especially when you go back to dating younger, like middle school, it's dating then isn't seen as like necessarily like a sexual thing or like a married partner thing. It's just, it's like you come home from school and you talk to somebody in the playground. You're like, oh, this is my girlfriend now. This is my
Yep.
boyfriend. So there's not so much that lens of like the sexuality part of it, so to speak.
Puppy love. It
Exactly.
was puppy love.
Whereas like, I don't know, as you've gotten older, like for myself personally, obviously I never really dated in middle school or anything, but like when I got older and when I started dating, like my first concern was like, if I ever introduce somebody to mom and dad, is their immediate thought going to be like, oh yeah, they're sexually involved with each other? Like there's like a sexual component to it. Are they going to see that before like the partnership or the person I bring home? But like, has that ever been a thought on your mind with anyone you've dated as you've gotten older and a little bit more serious of relationships?
I mean, it has been, and I've had boyfriends come on family vacations, and I've had boyfriends sleep over, or I've slept at a boy's house. I mean, mom was with me when I was put on birth control. So it's like, like it is open, but it's a part of relationships. So while it might not have been the most comfortable thing for myself or my mom, I was just like, well, here's what it is.
Yeah.
Here's what's happening. So take it or leave it.
Yeah.
They have to love us unconditionally. So I tell them everything.
Yeah, she does tell too much. I was on the phone with Michelle the other day and she's like, yeah, mom says point blank I share too much with her.
Yeah, I'm an oversharer.
Don't your coworkers say that too?
My coworkers said, Michelle, you're an oversharer. And I was like, that's a great word to describe me. I'm going to use it all the time.
All right. Okay. So going off of that quick fun fact or whatever, I guess, what's a recent overshare that you've shared with somebody recently?
Like with mom or with anybody?
Anyone, just a recent one.
I mean, I met this random man in Philadelphia and I did kiss him lots of times. And my friend took a picture and I showed my mom. I was like, how cute? Like, how cute is that? I'm like, yeah, no, we haven't talked since. And he did post a picture of his girlfriend 3 days later. But look at this pic, mom.
I can't see. That's I can't even imagine. Like, I want to be, if I ever have like a boyfriend that she meets, I want us to be in separate rooms. Like, I don't want us like,
What do you mean?
Like, I'll be in the dining room, he'll be in the kitchen. That's how she can meet us. Like, I don't want any proximity towards us, or they could even
send your boyfriend into the kitchen with mom alone, unsupervised.
Or he could just be in the kitchen alone, and mom would be in the dining room with me. But I just don't want any proximity between us where they might be like, are they hand holding?
See, I don't know. Like,
But see, I've always been very shy PDA wise, because even in high school, here's a real, hot drop for everybody on the podcast. I did have a girlfriend for like a month in high school.
Sorry, we're name dropping.
All right, editing note. Please do like one of those like bloopers for any time a name is mentioned here. But I mean, even when that wasn't really dating. Like, we hung out a couple times, went to a couple movies, never really did anything physically, like held hands. But even that, like, I remember when she was around mom, that was still super uncomfortable for me. Like the one time, like we were holding hands and mom saw, like that just made me feel like super uncomfortable. I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't even think that it's me being heterosexual and you being homosexual.
Yeah.
I think that it's literally, I don't know. I don't want to say an insecurity, but just like an overthinking uncomfortability with you.
Well, I think the thing is too, I don't know how much this ties into it, but also like I really never got much of a sex talk from mom or dad about anything like that. But I think you did more a little bit too, because obviously there's more.
I mean, mom gave me and Amy like the puberty talk, but nothing about sex. Like she never spoke to us about sex. And then I remember when she found out that I was having sex, she was like absolutely floored, like sobbing profusely in the gynecologist's office. My gynecologist was holding her hand saying, I know it's hard. And I was like, and literally my boyfriend was a senior in high school. I was a junior in high school. We'd been dating for over a year and she was just blown away. And I was like, wow.
So why don't you walk us through that full story of how she found out that whole little office trip there?
I was having a little issue of not getting my period. And I mean, like, I knew that I wasn't pregnant. So we had to go to the gyno. And I told mom, don't come in the room with me. And the woman came in the room with me. And
haven't you ever heard of HIPAA?
And the very first question they ask you always is, are you sexually active? So she asked, and I said, yeah. And Margaret did not like that. And she goes, well, if you're sexually active, then how do you know you're not pregnant? because I took the test. And I was crying, and then she was crying, and then the gyno was like rubbing her shoulder, and I was naked from the waist down, and it was a disaster. And I got sent home with birth control. So been on it strong since then.
So it wasn't a total loss that day.
No, not total loss.
Yeah.
At all.
See, but also like obviously never that scenario, thank God. But like I never had like I feel like at least for puberty and stuff, you at least had more of a conversation with mom about like what changes you're going to go through, things like that as it pertains to your body. Whereas I never got that with dad. Mom said I did, but I don't. Maybe I blocked it out, but I don't ever remember that. I remember learning about what sex was and bodily fluids from Friends because of the episode where Ross and Rachel are making out in the planetarium. And she's like, oh, honey, that's okay. Those things happen. And he's like, no, you just rolled over on a juice box. And I'm like, Mom, what? She's like, didn't your father talk to you about that? And I was like, no. It's like, I never had any kind of talk with either of them to my knowledge of like bodily changes or anything like pertaining to sex or anything like that. So I think that might be part of why I feel more like closed up about like the PDA stuff or anything that could be involved, like anything that could be perceived as like a romantic, you know, relationship or romantic attraction or anything like that.
Well, I will say, just going back to your previous question about like, oh, worried about like mom thinking something sexual, like once mom did find out, it's not like I never had my boyfriend at the time over. Like he still came over all the time. Mom still talked to him all the time. And I was just like, well, like obviously at that point she knew, but like I still never even thought like, oh my God, she's thinking. I was just like, I don't care. I don't know. Sex is part of life. You gotta live.
We're going to segue a little bit. I think part of my apprehension with some of the relationship stuff, in terms of like bringing some, like mentioning about dating somebody around mom or dad or whatever, is because of some things I experienced growing up too. Like, obviously I'm the oldest, I'm the guinea pig. And there's like a 4.5-year age difference between me and my sisters, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I think a lot has changed within that small frame of time of how things are perceived, because I know messages I received growing up around, you know, gay people, things like that, was not as positive, you know, both in the neighborhood, both at school, things like that. Whereas my sisters, I know they had a very different experience with that. Gay was not as taboo in school and things like that in just that short period of time. So that being said, you know, kind of segueing to this next point, what was your first experience like knowing what gay was? Like, obviously we all hear the word like, that's so gay thrown around. But when you first realized like what gay actually meant?
I feel like I definitely knew what it actually meant, like probably by 5th grade. But I don't think that I had anyone openly gay in my class until 7th grade. But by 7th grade, there were several open either gay or lesbian like couples, like not just even like just saying that they were out of the closet, like they were literally in relationships by 7th grade. And which made sense. Like to me, I never questioned that either, because 7th grade was when I started having boyfriends. So if 7th grade was when other men started having boyfriends or other girls started having girlfriends, like that's just when everyone started dating. And it was just like, okay.
So like, how'd you like find out, like in what context did you like kind of, do you know where you made that connection? Like gay means this, like, do you have a situation that like stands on your mind?
I know that like, it's not like when I got to middle school and maybe two guys were dating each other that I was like, wait, is that what gay is? Like I fully already knew what it was, but I don't remember. Obviously it had to be some point in elementary school. I don't remember like being like, oh, is that what gay means? So
I remember like in 5th and 6th grade hearing the word like gay thrown around a little bit more, like calling people gay, but it wasn't even in relation to like you seem gay. It's just like you're stupid, you're whatever. But the first time, like this memory is so explicit in my memory. Like the first time I remember understanding what gay was I think I was like in 5th grade, and I was watching the local news, and it it was some story about civil unions at the time, because obviously, you know, marriage equality was not a thing. And I don't know, maybe it was Massachusetts at the time or something, but there was some news story about it. And I remember like, I don't think I put the word gay to this, but I remember seeing like 2 men and 2 women walking out of like a wedding chapel together with that, you know, like go into the chapel song playing. And then the next day I know mom is in the family room and just turns off the TV, puts the remote down and just walks out, doesn't say anything. And like, really? I didn't know, like, obviously I get the sense like something was off there.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like, that was the first time I ever thought of like that I saw or even like processed like 2 men could be together, 2 women could be together. Again, the word gay wasn't associated with that at the time, but like mom's reaction, like, I don't even know if I saw it as like, oh, this is something bad, but like it just was like weird. I'm like, oh, this isn't like, I don't know why this happened. And then like a few minutes later, like I turned the TV back on, like nothing happened. And not just with her, but like growing up in general, there were a few other moments like that I think kind of put that spin on things where I always feel that, when it comes to talking about, dating somebody or being in a same-sex relationship, that there's always that spin of well, they're two men doing this together. Like that thought, like that's the first thought I think people go to sometimes, I think because of those situations growing up of like seeing like how people reacted to that. So you're talking a little bit more about how like around like seventh grade, you started seeing, guys having boyfriends, girls having girlfriends. Can you talk about just what you like, because I remember too going to your high school graduation, the valedictorian was openly gay and like one of the most popular guys in the school. And that was not something that was seen during my time in school, which was just 4.5 years earlier than that. So like, what were your experiences of like, how did you see LGBTQ plus people treated in school? Like, middle school, high school, maybe even college a little bit?
I don't, and like maybe I was super naive or even ignorant. I don't ever remember. I mean, honestly, in general, there wasn't too much bullying in my high school. Like, if anything, it was definitely girls against girls. Never really, like, we had the jocks who would maybe sometimes poke fun at like kids that weren't as popular.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying, like, never, at least in my grade, never at gay people. However, like I am thinking about like the gay people that I graduated high school with, and they were all chill and had friends both like, they had maybe their LGBTQ friends. I know the valedictorian that my brother's referring to, like he had this group of girlfriends, but then he was also friends with like the boys on the basketball team. And I know another kid was friends with like the boys on the baseball team. Like, I don't know, like a lot of like the straight guys in my grade were still friends with the gay kids. Like it wasn't weird. It wasn't like, oh, he's trying to hit on me. Like, I don't know. It was just like very lax, I feel.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe if you asked those kids that were openly gay in my high school, maybe they did have a totally different experience that I am like neglecting to even remember. But I don't ever remember like the gay kids having like kids bullying them for being gay or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, for myself too in school, like, so I don't know. And I don't know if this is the same with you. Like, I feel that the kids that were out when I was in high school were kids who could not be in the closet, So it wasn't like maybe people even felt confident enough to be out, but like there was not a choice for them to be in the closet. Yeah. And for myself, like I know there were rumors about me, but I don't think I was ever bullied explicitly for like people thinking I was gay. I mean, a little bit in like sixth grade, but that was more so because I hadn't gone through puberty. So I had like a high pitched voice, really bad haircut, was fat. But like high school, I don't remember being like, I don't think I was like really even bullied a lot. Like there was like, I mean, everybody gets like a little bullied, but it wasn't like I was like the target of like chronic stuff, and definitely not about like sexuality. Like, again, I know there were rumors about like if people were wondering if I was gay, but it was kind of just like a wondering thing. But I don't know. I'm trying to remember, like, I don't know how much. I'm trying to think if I even remember comments, because like I was so like antisocial in high school. I kind of just like kept to my own like few friends. I didn't want to talk in school. I didn't want people to know who I was because I just wanted to get through high school and be done with it. But I don't like, I'm trying to remember like what, if I had heard anything, if there's any serious bullying. Again, if for the person happens to, it's fresh in their mind. Like they're not going to forget that. But from the outside, like you might not recognize if somebody else was bullied. You don't know everything that they went through. But I don't remember like any like, smear campaigns going on against one person in particular. I know a lot of times when there were like gay, like bullying stuff, it was really like, I don't think it's ever just directed at one person. It was just like gay was bad. And it was always like butt stuff. For some reason, like all the guys were just like, oh, I bet they like a broomstick up their ass. Like, I mean, no, like
No,
I don't know. That's a little too big for anybody. But like, it was just like really stupid, immature stuff like that. But again, we're also like where we grew up in high school now. It definitely is, I'd say, a little bit more conservative in area, but it's not like really red pockets in the country where it's like you're like going to be beaten with a Bible necessarily.
It is very small town PA. So like, I knew whether they were popular or not. I knew every single person's name and face in my grade. And I probably could tell you at least 70% of their parents by face and name. Yeah. And like, that's how it was. Like, parents know you, even if you don't know them. Like, kids know you. Like, not that you can't get away with bullying, but like in a small town like that where everybody knows everyone, like you can't just be blatantly ruining someone's life because people are going to know and talk about it.
Yeah.
But as far as bullying goes, yeah, like there was no, I don't think that there was really anyone in my high school just like going through absolute hell with other kids.
Now, I will say, compared to your grade, with my grade, people who were gay, I definitely don't think were necessarily as popular. Like, I
Yeah.
do think there was a little bit of like a social stigma associated with that. If like you were gay, like I feel like you did stereotypically have to be friends with like a lot of girls. Like the guys wouldn't necessarily be your friends and stuff. Whereas, like I said, I was surprised when I went to your graduation because this, the openly gay valedictorian, he was like friends with everyone. Like he was cool with all the guys, cool with all the girls. Like his sexuality like wasn't really, at least from what I had seen. Again, I was 4 years after you or before you, so I wasn't part of that grade. But like from what I saw, like it didn't seem like his sexuality was really an impact on how people treated him.
Our valedictorian, he was honestly more flamboyant. Like he wasn't like, even when he first moved to our school, he came in ninth grade and we all thought that he was so cute. He was a very good looking man. And as soon as he like spoke, we were like, oh, maybe I can hit on him. And I remember a girl asked him out like very early, and him being at our school. And that was like, I think that was the first time I said to her, like, he's like, oh, like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm actually gay. And I think that was like when everyone found out that I was like for certain. And like, again, like he was pretty flamboyant, but I mean, he was just like a really good, fun person that the straight guys loved him. The girls loved him. Everybody like got along with him. Like, I don't think that anyone caused issues for him. Thank God. And I'm trying to think if I remember him even dating in high school. I feel like he at least had 1 or 2 relationships that were open. That, like, again, no one really batted an eye at. So
nice.
That was good. Yeah. And then, so I dated a guy who had a sister who was 9 years younger than me. And even more and more kids were out in her grade than had been in my grade when I was her age. So, like, I just think that as the years go on, it is becoming just more socially normal, like something that you see more often than you used to.
Yeah. I think because of how things are changing, people might have the courage to live more openly. And also, I think people are, I hate to use the word tolerant because you shouldn't be tolerant. You should accept people. But I think people are more tolerant of, recognizing that there isn't just one sense of normal. Like, just having, a mom, dad, 2 kids, that's not, just because that's what always was the typical family dynamic doesn't mean that has to be the standard. That has to be the one normal. Normal is whatever you grow up with. Normal is whatever you experience in life. Normal is not a predefined thing. It's normal is, relative for each person.
This whole family would be screwed if normal was one thing.
We have a very different sense of normal.
Fun and dysfunctional.
Fun and dysfunctional. Speaking of which, I want to talk about, myself and our sibling relationship. So, like, when did you kind of first, because we never were in school together. Like, I think in elementary school, there was 1 year where we were both in the same elementary school. Then I went to middle school, and you were in middle school when I was finishing up high school.
Yeah.
So we never really overlapped in terms of being in the same school. So you weren't, privy to all any rumors or gossip or anything like that. But, when did you start wondering about myself, like if I was gay or like my sexuality or anything like that, or like when conversations came up about that?
So again, it wasn't anything I ever thought about. Like, I never thought like, oh, I think that my brother's gay. But like, I also never would have been surprised to find out that you were. I remember one time I was in 7th grade and a boy in my grade who had a sister, maybe like 1 or 2 grades younger than you, said to me, he's like, oh, my sister said that your brother's gay. And he said that to me, and I was like, what? And then, like, I just, like, it's not even like I asked my brother, like, are you gay? I literally said, I was like, oh, like, do you know this girl? She told her brother that you're gay. And I remember you obviously being super upset about it, and I, like, literally thought nothing of it. Like, I was like, nothing. But then when you did come out to us, I remember, like, me and Amy broke onto mom and dad's computer and read the email that you sent them. And she goes, I kind of knew. And I go, I kind of knew too. And then, like, we just closed the laptop and went about our day. Like, it was, like, no big deal.
Going back to when you said you brought up and I was upset about it. Yeah, I was upset because for me growing up, it was a bad thing. Like, not that it is a bad thing, but that's how it perceived to be because of how people's reactions were to it. And, from like those experiences I talked about a little bit earlier and things like that. Also, something I've talked about on the podcast before, but goes for my whole family. We're all religious. So there is that other layer of complexity on top of things. But it also bothered me because I wasn't living openly and I was trying to not be that because I was so afraid of being gay. So I was, trying to not dress too nice and trying to like talk in a lower voice or not talk at all and trying to avoid anything that could link me to being gay. So when rumors and speculations came up like that, it was annoying because it's like, while it might not be a big deal to other people if I am, it's a big deal to me because I haven't accepted it within myself. I mean, at that time, it wasn't even a thought that I could be. It was just a fear that I was. But how do you think, like, having a gay sibling, like, how do you think that's impacted your view on things, because you were still in high school when it came out, yeah?
Yeah. I was a
Was
junior.
junior? Yeah. So you were towards the end of high school, and obviously I feel college opens you up a lot more to
Yeah.
new people, new experiences, all those things. But with me coming out, how did that have any impact on how you viewed gay people, or how you, even beyond that, just are more accepting of people who might come from other walks of life or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I was already friends with gay people, like the valedictorian before you came out. So when you came, like, I was like, okay, well, I'm friends with this person. Obviously friends with you. Like,
Oh, so that we're friends.
and and just like I will say, by junior year, I knew that I wanted to be a nurse, and your job is to treat human beings, period. Because like whether you're gay, straight, bi, transgender, whatever, like you're a human being. So my job is to take care of human beings. It does not matter. It doesn't even matter what your views are. Like I will give you the care that we think is best, and you have the right to refuse, and that's just what it is. So um I guess it did probably make me more, I don't want to say accepting, but like open to it, open to like everyone lives differently. And even when I went to college in Delaware, which is a blue state. And on my freshman floor, we had gay kids who the straight boys loved, just like same experience that I had in high school. And then I remember we had a kid on my floor who was asexual, and I didn't know what that was. And, he explained it to our entire floor. Like, I think it was actually like a floor meeting. Like, even our RA was there, and my RA was gay. And so I think that we just had like a super, like everyone on my floor was super open. And it was nice. It's nice to be around people that are that open. Cause that, like I said, like to me, everyone is just a human being.
Well, and I think going back to it too, you're saying, everybody was open to, and I think it sounds like open both ways, and like open to having questions asked and open to having discussions about, because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, nobody is an expert on anything. Like I say it on the podcast all the time, being gay does not equal one thing. Gay is different for every person.
Yeah.
It's your sexual orientation. It's a part of your identity, but it's not your sole identity, so you have, whether it's terms of like masculinity versus femininity versus heteronormativity versus being non-heteronormative, whatever. Like, I mean, there's no one size fits all necessarily with that. And so I think it's really important that people, like you said, are open and can have open conversations, and are open to questions. And obviously, there's a respectful way to ask a question.
Yeah.
But, really, I think a lot of times when people have questions, it's generally out of a curiosity and not an interrogation,
Yeah. And like, I remember having that like floor meeting, which it wasn't even about anything, like it wasn't even about sexuality. We just ended up getting on the topic. And I remember like both the gay gentleman and the asexual gentleman were like super open about like anyone could ask a question. And like if it was a super frat boy versus like the super quiet kid asking a question, like they just answered it in the same way. And like I really felt like no one was judging. Everyone was just like curious, just like talking. So yeah. Am I doing poorly?
No, you're doing fine.
Are you
That's not.
laughing? Really? Should we just start over?
You're doing fine. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Well,
Okay.
we have been recording for a little while, so I guess just kind of to wrap it up, closing takes, I guess what, talked about a lot. So just closing up, like what, advice would you put out there? Like what words of wisdom would you put out for that? One, for people accepting others, maybe for people who are struggling to accept themselves or things like that, just in the grand scheme of things.
So to be completely honest with you, it always makes me sad that you didn't come out until you were much older, like 21, because like I said, I was always super open about who I had a crush on and who I was dating. And I do think that everyone should be like that. I just think that you are who you are, and like you should have just like that confidence. And I will say the valedictorian in my class, that's who he was. Like he was just like, he came out to his parents super young. I think he was like 10 years old when he came out to his parents. And he was just like, this is who I am, and this is what it is. And his father was very conservative and macho, and his dad handled it really well, because when he came out, he just said like, this is who I am and this is who I want to be. Like he was never ashamed of it. And like I think that just radiating that confidence and just like being true to yourself, I think that you're going to live way more of a fulfilling life than if you're trying to be true to other people's beliefs, because that's not going to give you any benefit.
And what about people who like need to learn to like accept others? And again, not even just in that, but just in general, because
Yeah.
there's so much, so much conflict today. It's like with people not taking the time to accept or be kind to others, like what do you have to say to that?
I mean, I'm not going to be nice, but if you have a hard time accepting other people, maybe you need to knock down your confidence a little bit and look to see what's wrong with you. So if you're going to pull people out and not accept someone for how they want to live their life, maybe it's you that's living your life the wrong way.
Ooh,
Sorry.
the tea.
Sorry.
Well, thank you very much. And again, kind of just like reflecting on your piece about like accepting yourself and everything like that. Like the tarot says, with the hangman in reverse, we might be feeling at a place where we're blocked, like we're stuck and we're not getting ahead. And maybe that's, stuck in a closet, that's stuck in just being out to some people, but not living fully authentically or openly. And while it might be concerning or we might be hard on ourselves that we're not making enough progress, we're in that moment for a reason. We're in that time for a reason. There's something to learn in that experience there. So we definitely need to trust our intuition and just, be there, trust the process. And as such, then we'll be building the confidence we need to really kind of live authentically. So thank you again, Michelle, for being here. This has been lovely.
Be beautiful.
Be beautiful.
Y-O-U.
I forgot to ask, are you an honorary jaded or non-jaded gay today?
Ooh, that's a good one. I am an honorary non-jaded gay today because I get to hang out with my other non-jaded gay.
Oh, sister.
No one's going to understand what I just said.
She said honorary non-jaded because she gets to hang out with me today. All right. Well, before we wrap up here, anything else you want to say? Any closing messages? Any goodbyes?
As always, feel free to email me at michelleloveless39@gmail.com. My Instagram, Michelle_Loveless_. I don't know the rest. Bye.
Okay, we're not there yet. Hope you all like this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. If you have any questions or feedback, you can reach out to me, rob@ajadedgay.com. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok @ajadedgaypod. You can follow me, Rob Loveless, on Instagram @rob_Loveless. And remember, every day is all we have, so you got to make your own happiness. Bye.
Felicia.
I'd like to welcome to the show my sister, Michelle. All right, get over here, bitch.
Ooh.
Oh, you're not supposed to hit the mic.
Oh, did I hit it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Can I talk whenever I want?
Sit down, though, because if you're doing like that, yeah.
Do I lean forward?
So just say, like, hi.
Do I lean forward?
I think you can... let me move the laptop here. I think if we talk like this, we should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's picking up, see.
Sorry. You're on air live with Michelle after midnight.